And even if I gave you $1 right now, it's not the end of that dollar's life. You get to take that dollar or $100 or $1,000 and use it again. And exchanges, how many times can that circulate? Where there's goods, there's services, there's experiences. And as long as people don't get in scarcity and start hoarding the money, wealth continues to be built. But I did have a funny thing happen just last week. I did a podcast, and when they introduced me, they said I was the author of Killing Scared Crows in the introduction, which just sounds kind of mean. Like my book's over here, it's Killing Sacred Cows. New York Times bestseller, but flopped in India for some reason. Like didn't do as well as I was hoping it was going to do there. Like it was metaphor. It wasn't like literal. Like even when you open the book, it says no cows were actually harmed during the creation of this book. I remember being on a flight and someone was reading the book and I was like, oh, this is so cool. So I went and talked to him and the person next to him was like, yeah, this guy thought it was a book about being a vegan. I was like, you know how you know I'm not a vegan? I didn't tell you within the first 10 seconds of meeting you that I was a vegan. So anyway, no, we're actually gonna do some content here. But Pete said I was funny, so I at least start with a little bit of laughter, and I see you guys are reacting to that, so I do appreciate that. But more seriously, what we're here to discuss is something I would call economic independence. And economic independence is a state where you have enough recurring revenue. Recurring revenue, I don't say passive income, because passive income is those things where people think they don't have to do anything. Money's just going to come in without them doing anything. It doesn't work that way. Passive income means money passing you by. Recurring revenue means intentional, very direct cash flow investing that comes in on a regular basis that you just have to maintain and manage and monitor, but it doesn't take over your life. If you didn't show up the next day, it would still come in for you. Now, economic independence is when there's enough of that recurring revenue to cover your lifestyle expenses. So your lifestyle expenses don't come from your business, they don't come from having a job, it comes from assets producing cash flow. Why that's important is because if you hit that state where you have economic independence, everything you have around your vision, everything you want to do in this world, you can swing for the fences knowing that you have your financial foundation on secure ground, you're not going to put your family at risk, you're not going to have scarcity into your mind, and that's the greatest destroyer of wealth, is scarcity. Scarcity is that state of mind where people have, fear is their primary issue, concern, doubt. It's like people in scarcity start to look at others that are doing well and think, oh, they're taking away from me because profit is somehow evidence of deception. In reality, we live in an abundant world, and wealth is facilitated through something called exchange. What I mean by exchange, creating wealth, that's worth writing down. Exchange creates wealth is this. Wealth isn't built through luck, although there are all those lottery winners, but they're typically not wealthy because they piss the money away afterwards. They end up in jail afterwards. All their friends say, I hate you, sucker, for winning that. You owe me. Remember that one time I did the one thing, and so you pick up dinner, buy me a house when you get a chance, and all this kind of stuff? Like, wealth isn't a game of luck, and that's the good news. It's a intentional, deliberate game. And what it's built through is value creation. Dollars follow value. So exchange happens through solving problems. Exchange happens through serving others. And even if I gave you $1 right now, it's not the end of that dollar's life. You get to take that dollar or $100 or $1,000 and use it again. And exchanges, how many times can that circulate? Where there's goods, there's services, there's experiences. And as long as people don't get in scarcity and start hoarding the money, wealth continues to be built. Hell, let's take a little journey way back 200 years ago. Imagine 200 years ago being able to get this information at no charge. Imagine 200 years ago listening to music. I guess you had to hire the quartet to show up to your house. Now it streams for free on devices that you get for next to nothing. Like, we have so much more wealth today. And as a matter of fact, there's more money in the economy today at this moment than ever in history. The question is, do you know the formula? I might share it, just depending. I'm thinking about it. Hope we don't run out of time, and then I'm like, oh, I'm sorry. Didn't get to share it with you guys. No, I'll share it. in a few parts. Let's share economic independence first and how you did that. Then second, let's dissect and dig deeper. And if you think you have a money problem, it's never a money problem. Some of you with a money problem right now, you're really pissed at me, like, yeah, bullshit, I hate this guy. He just said, not funny anymore, funny man. Not GQ Jesus anymore, a-hole. I feel it, you know? By the way, I would never refer to myself in the third person. That was a Mormon that called me GQ Jesus, a Mormon that called me that. Yeah, so I feel like it's okay to repeat if a Mormon said it. You know? Not like an atheist or something like that. So, I want to share this equation called the value equation, because it's one thing for me to say create more value, it's another thing to understand how value is created. I want to share the 5 steps that I've been studying since 1998 on how you can achieve economic independence. Not in 30 years, who's been sold that bill of goods that you need to live within your means, and if you just sacrifice, scrimp, save, budget, that one day, someday, you too can live the life of your dreams with a replacement hit way out in the future. Maybe, if the market cooperates. And by the way, all this retirement dream that turns into a nightmare for most people, guess at age 65 how many people in the US are economically independent right now? 8%. Not living their fulfilled life and doing things they want. USA Today did a study, the #1 fear of Americans that retire, guess what it is? The fear of running out of money. How awesome. If you guys just scrimp and sacrifice and don't have memories and do really things your whole life that you don't want to do, then one day, someday, you can worry about running out of money. I gotta tell you, my #1 fear is not running out of money, it's vomiting. There is nothing worse. And for some reason, as I land in Vegas, I start feeling that, like, fear rise because of my 21st birthday that happened out here. Right? It's like really present in my mind, messing with me. No, all right, so I'm gonna share the value equation, the 5 steps to economic independence, and a few tidbits along the way, like how did Pete Vargas save 30 grand? Why don't I just give you that tip right now? Who owns a business? Show of hands. All right, how many people also own a home and own a business? Show of hands. You can apply this immediately and within 24 hours start to put more cash in your life without having to scrimp or sacrifice. It's called the Augusta Rule. There was a senator that owned a home in Augusta, Georgia. Might have heard of it. They do this little thing called the Masters there. And for 14 days a year, he wanted to rent his home out. The problem is he didn't want to pay tax on that rental income. So he passed a law that says if you own a home and you host a business function or you rent it out, so like I'll host an event at my house quite often and then charge $10,000 because if I host it during a time that it's really busy, I just compare it to what would it look like to go get another house that's similar or another conference room. That $10,000 comes into me tax-free, but my business gets to write it off. So if you just calculate 14 days a year what you could rent your place out for, if you live here in Vegas, just wait, is the Pro Rodeo in town, is it CES, is it whatever, where all the hotels start jacking up their conference room prices, quote that out, charge it on a lease agreement, and put that money in your pocket, all right? So my expertise isn't to have you work harder, my expertise is to help you keep more of every dollar you make. Create more certainty in your life so you can swing for the fences in everything you do. Understand that anytime you have an obstacle or roadblock, that a simple formula will help you get past it because you're one idea or one relationship to the next level of prosperity. Cool? All right. So this all kind of started when I was a teenager. I had my first business when I was 15, and it wasn't like my first business because my first business was an extortion business against my family. I would mow their lawns and they would have to pay me premium dollar whether they wanted me to mow the lawn or not. Because you just mow the lawn and you show up, Aunt Mary, how much do I get for this? You know, that was my first business. My second business was Garrett Gunderson's Car Care. I spent a full 10 seconds on naming that thing, Garrett Gunderson's Car Care. And at 15, I did my first speaking gig because I was speaking about my business to this panel of judges, and I won 3rd place for Rural Young Entrepreneur of the state of Utah. The next year I won it for the whole state of Utah, which came with $5,000, and so now I'm a teenager with $5,000. What do you think I did with it? What do you think? Pissed it away. What you don't realize is I grew up in a small, crappy coal mining town. My dad, coal miner. Both grandparents, coal miners. Great-grandparents, guess what they did? Coal mining. I've never stepped a foot in one of those places. There's that black lung issue. Have you ever seen Zoolander where he works in a mine for a day and he comes out coughing? That was me. I didn't even go in. I was like, I think I got the black lung, Pop. Can't go in the mine. So anyway, I win this $5,000 and I want to get out of this place. I want to get out. So I was like, I need to invest this money. Now, as a teenager wanting to invest the money, the first problem I had is my mom had a different money management philosophy. See, she had this Italian philosophy, which was you take the cash that you earn, you put it into a Folgers coffee can, and you put it in the cellar. And you laugh, but that's really was the money management method. So I was like, cool, I'm going to invest this money. She's like, no, you're not. That's risky. And she was right, because I was 16, it probably would have been pretty risky. So I was like, well, who do I know that's wealthy? So I went to my uncle, because he had the biggest, nicest house that I knew, and he was an executive for a major corporation that Warren Buffett's company bought out not too long ago. And I went to him and I said, hey, Bill, where should I invest the money? And he told me Novell. Anyone remember Novell? Because this was way back in the 90s. They owned 87% of the internet traffic back then. How many people have not heard of Novell, just by a show of hands? Yet, how do you think that investment would have went, by the way, if you didn't ever hear that company now? Fortunately, my Aunt Debbie pulled me aside and goes, your Uncle Bill makes a lot of money in his job and then pisses it away in the stock market, using your term, not mine. Because I wouldn't be that vulgar to say pisses, of course. But anyway, thanks for that word. So I avoided that. But then I detailed the cars for the credit union when they'd repossess vehicles. That was a pleasure, by the way. Just a sheer joy when they would repossess a vehicle from Mexico, that they knew that they didn't get a key. That was awesome. That's when I became a speaker, by the way, because then I went and spoke about my business, won $5,000. I was like, I'm not buffing another car the rest of my life. I'll have employees do that while I sip Budweiser, because that's from a town. So anyway, underage drinking, how many could you drink? You know, you get the picture of a coal mining town there. But I asked the president of the credit union how to invest the money. You'll never guess what he told me to do. A certificate of deposit. Those are so exciting, by the way. Use the rule of 72. You take the interest rate, you divide it into 72, it tells you how long it takes the money to double, and I thought, I will be an old geezer before the money doubles, which I think was my birthday just 2 days ago, where I turned the age that it would have taken to double. So anyway, the more questions I asked, the more confusing it became. So instead of actually getting investments, I'm asking questions when I'm 18 years old and some firm says, let me give you an internship in the world of finance. Now that sounded super cool, because I passed the test to tell everyone I was a financial advisor, which really meant nothing, because I just spoke it. And in reality, I just peddled mutual funds and life insurance, but I didn't want to tell people I was selling life insurance. My belly wasn't big enough, my tie wasn't short enough at the time. So I basically was just an usher to bring my family and friends to this firm to sell them products. And in 98 and 99, I was financial Einstein, the Doogie Howser, if you're that old that you remember Doogie Howser, of finance in my community, because all their money was in double E bonds and certificates of deposit, and I was getting them 18%, because everyone was getting 18% at that time, until the year 2000 happened. You gotta realize I'm 21 years old at that time, so all my clients were mom and dad and grandma and grandpa and my friends and their parents, and all of a sudden family reunions got even more awkward than before. Because now they're losing money and I'm showing up and they're like, what kind of car are you driving? Huh? So I had this confronting situation where I had to basically go to everyone that was a client and say, I don't really know what I'm doing. I'm just bringing people to, I'm just bringing these other people getting paid a commission, which was hard because I was I know it'd be shocking, but I was super arrogant at the time. I don't know why that got laughs, I'm confused, but anyway, beside the point. And then my life was transformed in that moment because I saw, by being direct and by being honest, I said, hey, you can either find a different financial advisor or wait for me to figure out something better. And that's when the journey towards what the formula for economic independence came about. And I'm going to share it with you. I asked this question, what can I do that's guaranteed for people? I think that's illegal to say in the world of finance, so I just spoke it under my breath to myself. But I started investigating that, and the first of the 5 steps to economic independence, which let me give you a distinction. Economic independence is where enough cash flow comes in to cover your expenses, whether you show up to do something the next day or not. You still have to monitor it. Financial freedom is something you could choose today, though. Financial freedom is a state of mind, it's a state of being. It's when money is no longer your primary reason or excuse for doing or not doing something. Financial freedom is when it's not your primary reason or excuse why you do or don't do something. Most of the world is so hung up that money is their absolute master and they're not mastering their money, and so they use words like, I can't afford it. You can hear it, listen to people's conversations. That's a debilitating declaration that never allows for possibility for being resourceful, solving a problem, or figuring out the next thing. So that's a problem. So financial freedom is just not the primary reason. You can still take it into consideration. But you realize there's three measures of worth. The first measure is price, and this is where most people stop. The price is what you pay. That's your price. This is why the marketing technique works so well of saying $3, $6.50, or $7. Oh, that's a lower price for the large, and that's a good deal. People buy not on the third piece I'm going to teach you, they buy on price, and price sensitivity is the worst way because it's not a good way to invest. The second way to measure worth is cost. What I mean by cost is a little bit economic. There's things that can be really high priced and really low cost. Like Pete Vargas had a high-priced accountant before he met me. Our price was a lot higher, but our first strategy saved him $30,000, and within 2 years, he was 78% of the way to economic independence, and we gave him permission to invest fully in everything that he does because he's brilliant at what he does, and his business exploded. I can't take any credit for the business explosion other than I gave him permission to fully go out and do that because he was achieving economic independence and stop investing in everyone else's dreams and everyone else's vision and everyone else's company, which far too many people do because we think we should diversify. But Andrew Carnegie said, I focus, I never diversify. I would put all my eggs in one basket and watch it like a hawk. He did pretty well. Diversification is an admission of ignorance. It's saying, I don't know what's going to work, let me spread myself thin. And it actually increases your risk because there's more things that can go wrong and less relationship to your investments. So, economic independence, the first step is to recover cash. There's 4 I's, I'll go quickly. The first I to recover cash is the IRS. We find 93% of business owners overpay the government. They tip the government. Now maybe tip your wait staff or Uber or Lyft driver, but not the government. I know you love how they spend money and everything that goes on there, and it's much more efficient than what you could do, but you might want to just keep that. And not just a small amount. Really, there's, for every $250,000 of revenue, we find $10,430 of bottom line cash people can get back that they're overpaying the government. If you've overpaid the last 3 years, you can go back and amend your returns and get the IRS to write you a check. The biggest we've seen, $457,000. We've seen $249,000. It's kind of nice to get a check back. There's a better way to do it, which is called don't give the government an interest-free loan, but at least you can go back and amend if you missed out. So the IRS, that's the first step. The second one of the 4 I's to recover cash is interest. If you have a loan, and if you have more than one loan, we find 4 out of 5 times people are overpaying on their interest because they either don't have the right credit score, there's a way to dress up your credit score, they don't have the right cash flow reporting, therefore they pay a higher interest rate. They don't have the right collateral. Like if you have a paid off car, you could refinance your car at 1.9, 2.9%, pay off a higher interest rate loan at 16%, but most people don't realize you can refinance a car you already own, right? And a car loan is infinitely better for your credit than a credit card. So there's all these little nuances. But that's a $2,484 per month that we help people free up in the cash flow optimization process. The interest part of it's about 1/5 of that, but that's something that is just money that's right there for you. You do something called differentiating expenses. We look at things you should increase. Like there's a thing called the productive expense. Productive expense is you put in $1, more than $1 comes back. What should your budget be for a productive expense, by the way? If we don't budget that, it's working. Put it in until it stops working. When people are like, what's your marketing budget? Marketing that works, we keep putting money in, and marketing that doesn't, we stop putting money in. It's complicated, I know, but if you write that down, it really helps out. So, the next I is investments. A lot of people have hidden fees, hidden commissions, and just, here's the impact. If you had 100 grand and you had that hypothetical 10%, because they say that the stock market's averaged 10% since 2000 BC, which is a lie, but if it really did. Like, averages are a lie, because if I was standing in a shower with two shower heads and I turned one freezing cold and the other one scalding hot, on average it's a lukewarm temperature, but I'm miserable as hell. Like, averages lie, they're just a pure lie. Like, if you had $10,000, you lose 10%, you go down to 9,000, right? What if they say, the market's recovered, it's back up 10%, what are you at? 9,900, you're not even back to your 10,000, plus you paid the fee, plus you lost 2 years. So it's a really stupid idea that they tried to pawn off on everyone, and when I shared that on CNBC, they kicked me off. It wasn't good for the advertisers, I guess. So, yeah, you should see the look on their eyes as I teach on CNBC. It was just like darkness and nothing after I finished my segment, by the way. Dead silence, no emails, nothing. I'm the same on that as I am here, so. If you had $100,000 for the next 30 years, you invest it, get 10%, it grows to $1.74 million. That sounds really cool, right? If you paid less than 1% in a management fee, 0.8%, it grows to $1.4 million. I hope you love your financial planners $340,000 worth in that scenario, because 96% of the time they're underperforming non-fee things. So there's hidden fees, there's hidden commissions, and more importantly, downside protection, because far too many people participate in the downside, and with one simple mechanism called the trailing stop loss, don't have to participate in the downside. There's so many. If I could just do it, like, just if you guys can stay with me till midnight, I'll go into more depth on this. Is that cool?
Yes.
Yes. So that's the third eye. So there was IRS, there was interest, there's investments, and the fourth one is insurance. Insurance isn't as big on the cash flow side, but there are duplicate coverages, duplicate costs. But more importantly, we find people with exposure because they don't have the right coverage. So if you have an incident that happens, you're planning for bankruptcy. So usually through new structure, we can apply hundreds of thousands of dollars or more coverage for the same dollars. It's called insure the catastrophic, not the inconsequential, and coordinate. So those are the four I's. That's recovering cash flow. Step one of economic independence. Step two of economic independence. And I just say this way to sound smart, and then I might be easier. Strategically engineer wealth. Like, I feel like I should be British to say those words, you know? But the reality is we just identify your economic independence member, then reverse engineer three factors. What do you need foundationally? What safety mechanisms can we put in? And then where's the growth mechanisms that improve cash flow? That's how we strategically engineer wealth. The third thing that will get you economic independence. And by the way, this economic independence formula is 3 to 7 years that I'm giving you here. 3 years, if you're frugal, you've got a decent amount of money, but not a lot of cash flow, you get there in 3 years. There's some weirdos that get there like in 1 year, but it took me 7 years. I'm the 7-year example. I want to be the poor example. And the reason it was 7 years for me is a luxury once enjoyed becomes a necessity. You know what I'm saying? Like, I grew up in Motel 6 when we go out with my family. Now, I like these things called boutique hotels, you know, or renting out a villa in Italy for the last 2 months is what I just did. So those are a little bit more expensive, so it takes longer when you have expensive tastes. I remember when I was the miserable millionaire when I first got married. Like, we were gonna save our way rich, and no one saves himself rich. No one shrinks their way to wealth. That's not how it works. But I was gonna try it. We were getting married, and I told my wife, I'm like, we should move into your parents' basement. They got that whole apartment thing going on down there. She says, great, I'll close up shop, if you know what I'm saying, and we'll live down there. I was like, no, let's spend a little bit of money then, you know? So I gave her a $600 a month budget, and we found I didn't know there was a ghetto in Utah, but we found a ghetto in Utah. And when she found the property, she was so excited to take me there. She's like, I found the perfect property. It was actually a $400 a month budget. We got there, and there were like kids running around in the street naked because they're being neglected by their parents. There were people drinking 40s on their porch at 2 in the afternoon on a work week, and these were dilapidated places. And she's like, what do you think? And I was like, $600. That's when I said we can go $200 more, right? Like, I was still a miser. I'm lucky to be married still to this day. But then I went to the other extreme where I was like, ooh, I like the finer things in life. You know, I was raised, my dad liked box wine. I like it different. Love it. So it could take you 7 years if you're addicted to the finer things in life, but that's still better than the 30 years that produces a 92% failure rate, right? Yeah. Oh, cool. Yeah, you can clap. I wasn't expecting it, but I will pause for sure and allow that. Thank you. So, what's going on, Mike? I think we're now counting down. Okay, good, we're set. Just letting you into my head. Sometimes it's useless facts that you'll get as we go through here, but I'll give you brilliance every now and again too, okay? So, the third step is to accelerate investment income. What that really means is we find all your lazy assets. What are your assets right now that aren't producing cash flow? And let's turn on the cash flow. So it helps you get economically independent. Now, if you really want economic independence, which is going to get you, I'm sure you've heard people talk about 10 times in your business and 10 times in your growth. This is my formula for it. Economic independence means every active dollar you earn can build more assets, be invested back into your business, and isn't encumbered by your daily living. And then all of a sudden, people are going to wonder why everything's growing so fast, and how can you do everything you're doing? It's because you're freaking economically independent. The fear diminishes, the money's there to go full on in, and all of a sudden you can do things that other people can only dream of, and they're kind of pissed off, wondering how you did it. But there's this little formula that we're sharing. So a lazy asset might be a retirement plan, a 401k, an IRA. Even if you're not 59 and a half, you can get that money out without the 10% penalty through a little thing called the 72T distribution. Now it creates cash flow, covering your expenses. Now it means you can invest more money in growing the 3 P's of your business. The right people, the right processes, so those people can perform without you micromanaging them, and the right procedures, which is automation and technology that allow you to leverage what you're doing so that it can scale, and all of a sudden you can grow your business, which we're getting to on the 4th piece. So, recover cash, which is plugging the leaks, keeping more of what you make, strategically engineering wealth, finding that economic independence number and building the plan. Number 3, accelerate investment income, find existing resources. Like I just had a client that we created about $5,200 a month by simply looking at the most stagnant resource that they didn't understand at all and helping their family out. We just used their credit to do it. They didn't think about that. So they became the main financier for all their family, and they're getting 10% above what they're the bank basically. So it's been a really cool situation because it's just extra cash flow for them. And they're so economically independent that they're selling their home in the woodlands and moving to Park City, Utah for the next phase of their life because they love it there and they feel more relaxed. It's like, that's what I love, it's the living wealthy. See, wealth isn't just the man that has it or woman that has it, it's the man or woman that lives it. I'd love to take credit, but that was actually Benjamin Franklin. I almost stole that quote, like you guys are going, man, this guy's so quotable. Okay, Benjamin Franklin said that one. I did say no one shrinks their way to wealth, so you can write Garrett Gunderson after that. Okay, cool. All right, the 4th step, and this is the main differentiator to economic independence. The 4th step is to scale business revenue. Scale business revenue. 91% of the population worth $5 million or more all own a business. If they're worth $25 million or more, 96%. If they're worth $500 million or more, 97.8%. Which means you either own a business if you want to get extra wealthy, or you had to be part of the Lucky Sperm Club. That works. You just inherit it because you're born in the right family. Or you marry for money. I heard that works out really well for people. I heard it's like a great formula. Or you win the lottery. Now somehow they build a lot of great buildings here on that kind of lottery syndrome, so it might not be working out for the people investing there. Or gambling. At least if you gamble in Vegas, like you get free drinks. When you gamble in the investing world, you get a stack of papers. So, just huge advice. I didn't see everyone write that one down, but I'll pause for a minute, let you get that one. All right, so the 4th one is scaling business revenue. Let me just give you 3 simple, major scaling things you can do. Number 1, if you own a business, you delegate roles to people, not tasks. Tasks are like boomerangs, they come back around you. Roles are, you own this project, you own this objective. I'm here to support you, but however you need to get it done, this is what it has to look like. It frees people's time up, and you know why you want to free your time up? So you can do what no one else in the world can do. So you do the very best that you have to offer, the most scalable, highest leverage thing for me, that's writing books. When I didn't delegate roles, I wrote 1 book in 8 years. Now that I delegate roles, 4 books in 4 years. Next one's coming out February of 2018 called 5-Day Weekend. The one after that is called Budgeting Sucks because it does. And you don't have to budget. There's a way to completely eliminate budgeting and be wealthier. So and then I can't tell you the other titles because I don't know what the hell they are, but we're writing them. So, yeah. Oh, What Would the Rockefellers Do came out last year. And someone read What Would the Rockefellers Do, yeah. If you want it, it's just $1,000 on Amazon. It's really cheap. Or I'll get a better way to get it to you, you know. All right. So, delegate roles. The next thing is you claim your authority. When I went on Fox News with Neil Cavuto, they asked for how to introduce me. And I was like, America's leading authority on cash flow. And then I came on, guess how they introduced me? America's leading authority on cash flow. So then I went on, the next one I went on was KTLA in LA, which that one was more nerve-wracking because I'm in the green room, and Darius Rucker's there playing the guitar and singing. I'm like, oh yeah, I've heard of that Hootie guy right there. Gene Seymour's in there, and I gotta tell you, it would have been cool to meet Gene Seymour, but if you've seen Wedding Crashers, it's the only thing that was in my mind. The kitty cat, I was like, I don't know what to say, I'm just gonna look away, because I'm just gonna, you know, respect this woman. So anyway, I was really nervous, but like, they introduced me however I told them to. So it's like, the leading expert worldwide on helping business owners keep more of their cash. And they just introduced me that way. But the thing is, as long as you can truly own it and feel it, opportunity comes. So claiming your authority creates leverage because now you're positioning up. I work with a lot of doctors. I know some doctors in the room right here from other events that I've done. And they're like, oh, my patients just want to see me. I'm like, oh, you haven't claimed your authority. So they expect you to do this other work. But when you claim your authority, like when I wrote Killing Sacred Cows, everybody's like, I'm never Garrett will sit down and meet with me at my kitchen table. That was never part of the conversation anymore, right? So, and the last one is leverage hot topics. I was the first one to call out 401ks as a scam and a hoax, and then all of a sudden after I did it, Time Magazine put it on the cover that we should retire the 401k, and then after that, 60 Minutes. So guess what happened? 300 interviews in 3 months. We leveraged a hot topic, and then went from a regional business to a international business within a year and hit the 500. So those are ways to scale, all right? And scaling business revenue is absolutely one of the biggest advantages you can have, which means invest and fund your own dreams in your own business before you invest a single dollar outside. Don't invest another dollar speculatively in other people's things until you're economically independent, and you'll get there faster with more certainty, less risk. And unfortunately, those people that don't follow that invest in a lot of things that are wrapped as an investment, but inside are just a distraction that derail them, that are landmines that they hit, that drag their mindset into scarcity and harm their business. I've seen it far too often. You learn to say no. Like Warren Buffett said, the difference between a successful investor or a highly successful investor is successful investors say no to far more things, and the highly successful investors say yes to only the things that are perfectly aligned with their values and vision. Figure out your investor DNA, which is your competencies, your values. It's your drivers, and then focus only there and say no to every other investment. See, rookie investors always stay invested. Pros sit in cash until the opportunities come about. That's how Ted Turner acquired more private land than anyone else and became a businessman, because he didn't try to always stay invested. He didn't care about a retirement plan. He invested in things he knew and understood, and he sat in cash until the opportunity was right. So, point number one was what? What's the first thing? Recover cash. Don't scrimp and sacrifice, recover cash, financial savvy. Point number two, God, you sound so smart when you say it yourself. Right? Number three, accelerate investment income. Number four, scale business revenue. Say it with some like gusto. Like I just got back from Italy and people are like, oh, do you speak Italian? No, but I am brilliant with 10 words. Arrivederci. You know, I could like say some stuff with gusto. Prego, you know. Buonasera. I could say a few things. And like even the town we lived in, we said it like it was a Mario game. Kababio. What'd you say? Oh, kababio. You know, just let it out. It's okay. All right. So now on the fifth one. I think you're gonna like it. I love it because the fifth one is about loving your life. It's about making it count. It's about realizing no stock, no bond, no piece of real estate, no investment is greater than you as your greatest investment. That it's not about deferring or delaying, because a lot of times that confiscates people's wealth by delay. Let me give an example. June 9th of 2006, I pick up the telephone. Now, that's not even really what happened. June 9th of 2006, I'm groggy one morning, gonna do my workout. Procrastinating just a little bit, walking around. My home phone rings. I don't know my home phone number, so it's kind of confusing to me. I know my cell phone number. Home phone. So I just let it ring until the answering machine picks up. Then all of a sudden it starts ringing and I pick it up. And it's one of my business partners, Mike Eisen. He says, hey, the company plane left St. George last night. No one's heard from the guys. Like, well, you know them. They went to Vegas. Like, but then I turn on the news and I find out that the company plane had crashed in Utah Lake and two 35-year-old men had died. So I rushed to one of the widows to see what I could do to help. And then I make kind of a mistake. I say, I'm going to do whatever I can to make sure that their legacy is preserved. I'm going to do whatever I can. So we had a radio show. That was a Friday. By Monday, I was back onto the 2-hour-a-day radio show. We kept all 42 employees. And you know what happened to me? Gained 22 pounds in 4 months. Just before Thanksgiving, my assistant comes to me and goes, you're double booked. I'm like, oh God, what are we going to do? Double booked. You know, like if someone came and said, hey, you're double booked, I'd be like, cool, see if someone can switch. Make sure they're both on time. Maybe Mick can take one of the appointments, or Aaron, which are my team that are here. Like, I can think of 100 things, but I was so damn exhausted living my life for someone else. This happens all the time. You see it with parents, living their life for their kids, neglecting their own purpose, right? We felt it in our own family. So, I was finally taking the first break, which was Thanksgiving. And by the way, we had all of the external, view of wealth. Because we took the Bentley, this is kind of comical for a moment, even a serious story. We took the Bentley to Price, Utah. They thought it was a Chrysler 300, but it was a Bentley. It's confusing for them. So we had all the, and my wife and I have our best times on long drives through canyons, right? We're going through canyons, it's beautiful, it's gorgeous. And she's telling me a few things, kind of like Keith started with, oh, you're an extraordinary speaker. I'm like, well, thank you. That sounds great. You're an extraordinary businessman. I was like, well, the last 4 months have been really rough, but I'll take it. Maybe a little through the wife's eyes right now. But then she looks back at our 1-year-old son, and then looks back at me, and says, but you're just an ordinary husband and father. I don't want to get defensive, but then I was like, shh, she's right. And instead of getting defensive, I let it sit for a minute. I started to cry, which I hate letting people see me cry. I was like, impacted me. And within 6 days, I gave a division of the business to the employees and said, it's yours. For 30 days, I said, I'm not answering emails or phone calls. I'm going to reconnect with who I am, and all of a sudden, you know what happened? It was like a portal to genius opened up where I wrote Killing Sacred Cows in 30 days, because when they went to sleep, I was still energized because I was spending time with my family. I was working out. I was taking control of my life and living my legacy, not someone else's, right? And this is where I really had an understanding of this fifth lever, which is make it count. One, my partners died at 35, but you know what made me feel a little bit comfortable? They lived life. They were my example of living wealthy. They loved going to Hawaii. They'd hire photographers and I would just judge the hell out of them. Like, I'm scrimping. I'm Ebenezer Scrooge over here being like, look at all my coins, and they're over having experiences, right? It's like, why park in the short term when you can drive miles away and walk through the heat? That was kind of, so they really lived a great life, and one of them pulled me aside a month before he died and said, you know what, I can't imagine life being any better. I'm living the life I love. And that's what make it count is. Living life on your terms, recognizing you're the asset. Knowing that wealth isn't just money, but that's a big part of wealth. It's also living your soul purpose, S-O-U-L, your values, your abilities, your passions, combined for the highest context of living in the vision that compels you. Retirement gets retired when you have a purpose bigger than just money, right? Look at the biggest icons. They're not retiring. They can't even spend the money that they have. So that was really helpful to kind of hear that. The next piece was mindset. You heard from David Bayer. Is he not a badass or what, right? Mindset, I'm like, my wife and I are going to his workshop, just so you know, phenomenal. This is what's cool. I called him on my way to Italy. I'm about to get on the phone. I'm like, dude, you guys should come to Italy. He was there 3 weeks later. I was like, that's really cool, right? That's mindset. He lives it. So that's the third piece of wealth. The fourth is physical health. I was losing that by living my life for someone else. And the fifth one is social well-being, meaning enjoying life, having experiences along the way, having friends and family. And going to Italy, I saw people put their family first, and there's more stability and there's more enjoyment. I enjoyed the lifestyle a little bit too much. I'm on 30 days no drinking. The Aperol Spritzer, the Prosecco, and the red wine became, I forgot, you're supposed to drink water sometimes. So anyway, make it count. So recover cash, strategically engineer wealth, accelerate investment income, scale business revenue, and make it count. That'll get you to economic independence. Now, let's translate this into a formula that everyone can use immediately, that hopefully you never forget, and if you apply it on a daily basis, there will be more wealth, you'll be more resourceful, and money will never be your problem anymore because you'll now have what's at the core, what's underneath. So, just a quick check-in. Anybody want more financial capital? Just a show of hands. Cool. If you don't, you have to leave the room and you don't get it here. We're not letting you in. All right, so if you want more, that's a byproduct. Financial capital is like going to the grocery store. It's the receipt. It's the evidence of what you really want. It's just evidence, just a ticket. It's just a measuring tool. So there's two other more precious forms of capital. The first one is called mental capital. You ever heard that saying, it's not what you know, it's who you know? There's no way that's true. If you don't know anything, people aren't invited unless you're blood. That's it. Because they're like, oh, let's bring Johnny. He brings nothing to the table. That'll be awesome. He's literally mindless and stands there, and it's awkward the whole time. But he knows good people. Yeah, those people are not spending time with Johnny, all right? So mental capital is ideas, intuition, it's systems, it's tools, it's knowledge, it's wisdom. And we're in an unprecedented world right now where it's not about brawn, it's about brains. You have the right mental capital where you can serve others, solve their problems, deliver value. You could be a freaking kid, because I just spoke at an event in Puerto Rico where this guy now runs all the Lego events and all the Minecraft events and fills up stadiums because his daughter at 11 years old wanted to start doing YouTube. And she became a multimillionaire. At 11, yeah, my son now is like, Dad, I want to be a YouTuber. I'm like, cool, what's your name going to be? He's like, Gaming Widower. Damn, that's pretty good, we're buying the website, boom. You know? Like, but it's a different world now. It's about what value you can provide. Not what family you came from necessarily, not your ethnicity or background. People just want to know, can you bring something? And it's not even about how you look, because I'm a financial guy who's like, oh, that must be the financial guy back there with the long hair. Totally. And the jeans, like, yeah, that's the financial guy. But you want to know, can I provide value for you? You know? I want to say, I want to have freedom in life to live how I want to live. So the second precious form of capital is where most of your wealth is stored right now as potential and hasn't been realized. Most people don't recognize how to tap into it, and when you do, life will be forever changed. It's called relationship capital. Relationship capital is people, networks, organizations, mentors, coaches, family, friends. And I know people that say, yeah, but my grandfather was super smart, but he was always broke. I'm like, because he probably only helped the family. Relationship capital is taking your ideas and impacting others. Others that you've never met, others that you don't even know, and they exchange money with you. And that's what drives financial capital. So if you have a money problem, it's a mental capital problem. Maybe you invested in real estate, but you knew nothing about it. And all of a sudden you're over-leveraged and the market turns. Guess what? Wrong mental capital. Like I was on Robert Kiyosaki's podcast a couple times. The last time I was on it, we were talking about how he does a lot of real estate and used to recommend it a lot more than he does now. He's like, because I have the mental capital and relationship capital, in my words, is what he was saying. And others don't. He has 1 million people in his database that if he wants to sell some real estate, a lot of them raise their hands that they want to buy it. He still goes to courses. He's in his 70s, he's still going to real estate courses. It's part of his sole purpose, it's part of what he loves. Me, on the other hand, I own 100 real estate properties because someone lied to me and told me it was passive income. That was a kick to the nuts. Because then all of a sudden the pipes froze, or someone slipped and fell, or someone lived there for 4 months and didn't feel like they needed to pay rent. They were just professional squatters. So I was like, cool, I want to do something that actually translates to people, not just property. I'm going to stick with what I really love. And what I love to do is liberate people. I love them to have economic independence and fully experience that and give them the systems, tools, and team and confidence so that they end up with peace of mind. They end up with clarity and they can go forward without money being their primary reason or excuse why they do or don't do something. Or, like in my world, when I went to Italy, I went there to connect with my grandfather because he died a few years ago and this was his land. And he was the only somewhat entrepreneur I knew in my family, which inspired me to be an entrepreneur. And when I went there, what I realized is less than a century ago, my family left Italy simply because they couldn't find enough food to live. My great-grandfather left his wife and kids and didn't see them for years. And what I started to recognize is I can change my family's destiny and their financial future. And I can do that for others too. Because where I have a gift is money. I can read something about money, I'll remember it forever. I can ask the questions other people don't think to ask and dissect the things that everybody else is saying, that's a tax deduction. I'm like, no, that's not a tax deduction, that's a tax deferral. This is a totally different thing and it's actually screwing you up, but they're selling it as a good thing, right? Like, and I'm bold, I like to do these things, you know? Maybe some people might even say irreverent at times. My wife would definitely say so.
Want to master your money? Want to figure out the things that you could do to improve your finances? Click here and check out more videos like this on Money Matters.